Welcome to MELfeed.video. We are commencing a live web stream service via youtube.com from Echuca, Australia. We currently conduct these streams on Monday evenings, with other times to be added as more opportunities arise. Please visit our website MELfeed.video for further information. This web video project presents old and new community TV programs. Please enjoy your stay with MELfeed.video.
Hi and welcome to MELfeed for Monday the 21st of January. Today we've got NAT Chat coming up as usual at 8 o'clock, followed by Trammies Tracking Tramway Tradition, which is a special repeat program for tonight at 8:30, and then Harmony University with Norm at 9 o'clock. Red Lobster Poetry comes up at 9:30, and then 15 fabulous minutes with Jacqueline and Steve at 10 o'clock. They're off to a dance party of some sort tonight. And at 10:30, Transports of Distant Delight with the second special episode made just for MELfeed at 10:30 tonight. And at 10:45, we're closing up for tonight. So that's all for now. I'll see you a bit later on, and we'll head into NAT Chat.
Welcome to NAT Chat. My name is Paul Spanos, and today we have with us for immigration issues to discuss Kelly Leeds. And Kelly, you are a registered migration agent, the perfect person for the subject. And today we're going to discuss about working visas and all visas related to work and find work, temporary or permanent, in Australia. Let's start with those labour agreements. There are some companies that they do have a specific agreement with immigration. How does this work?
Okay, it's a specific agreement between the government and the company, and there's various departments involved. The important thing to understand is, as we said, with working visas, you have an occupation list. There's two occupation lists. I like to call them the short list, which is a SOL, and the long list, which is a CSOL, and has the SOL in it. Okay. So according to which visa you're going to be applying for, you have to be either an occupation in the SOL list or in the CSOL. Yes. Now, there's a lot of occupations, a lot, that are not on those lists. Yes. Okay. However, we find at times that there are needs in the market for specific occupations. There is no workers here. Foreign workers are required because of special skills, maybe because of special language skills, or because we don't have those skills in Australia. Yeah. And it usually happens with larger companies, and they may need to employ maybe 10 or 20 people, or continue to have a cycle of people coming in for that work. So instead of putting that occupation in the list, there is an opening that allows for an organisation or a company to actually put an application through to the government requesting a labour agreement for a specific occupation, and of course we're talking about specific numbers, specific terms. So what happens is, when that labour agreement is signed, that organisation is allowed to sponsor. They're actually, it's like the sponsor that we have for other purposes, but they're allowed to sponsor people for that specific occupation which is not on the occupation lists. Okay. That means that's the only difference it makes. And that is an agreement between the company and immigration only? It's with various government departments. And I think what we need to do is, I think that yes, immigration department is obviously involved, and I think the confusion that happens there is because Department of Immigration is also involved. People start to think that the company decides and gives the visas. No, they don't. Department of Immigration assesses your visa application, your qualifications, and everything, just as if you were asking for a 457 for the motor mechanic shop down the road. Okay. It's exactly the same thing. And the only difference is that the company is getting involved in us
for recruitment, specifically to look for those people, but those people,
well, every company actually is recruiting and
yes.
finding a foreign worker.
Yes.
I mean, a big car company that wants motor mechanics that
yes.
are specialised in European models
yes.
Does recruitment, but motor mechanics are on the list, so they don't
yes.
have to have a labour agreement.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So they just go ahead, put in an application, get assessed as a sponsor, and then they find Peter, who's a really good mechanic on these European models, and we would like to sponsor him and bring him in. So then they're an approved sponsor because that part has been approved by immigration.
Yes.
They put in a nomination application and nominate Peter. I'm just using a name.
Yes.
Okay. And immigration assesses that application yes. and says, yes. we accept your nomination for Peter and why you would want Peter's skills in your company. Yes. And then comes a turn of Peter's visa application and they assess Peter and Peter's qualifications. It is possible that they might not approve yes. Peter.
Okay. Now, Peter in this example comes to work with this company. Can he be flexible? For example, the company calls him for the next 2 years, all right, contract or something. How flexible is Peter to change employer?
Okay, we have to keep in mind when you are under a sponsored visa, we're talking about a temporary working
yes.
visa, which is
yes.
up to a maximum of 4 years.
Yes.
You are obliged to always be working for an approved sponsor.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Within your occupation, the visa has an occupation attached to it.
Okay.
You can't come under a visa as a motor mechanic and then go and work as an electrician.
Okay.
Not allowed to. And you can't go and work for somebody who's not an approved sponsor.
That means in this case that working visa specifically attached to the occupation.
It is. It's very specific to the occupation.
So that's how you need to continue
yes.
on.
I mean, if somebody has qualifications both as an electrician and as a motor mechanic, and they get a 457 visa as a motor mechanic, and then they decide, I have found somebody who's prepared to sponsor me as an electrician, the working conditions are better, it's a much better opportunity for me, well, by all means, they can apply for another visa.
But that means
it's a new application, okay?
Okay, that's a new application, and they need to have local assessment qualifications for their electrician.
Yes, with an electrician you need licensing, yes. for example. So you need to qualify for that license.
Yes, locally in Australia to be able to do this. So it is restrictive, the working visa, to what you have declared on your application.
Exactly. That's what it also brings in danger. Like with labour agreements, if there's a lot of organisations in Australia, usually if there's so many organisations who ask
yes.
for labour agreements, they will eventually put it on the list, like
yes.
the drillers some years ago,
okay,
for the mines.
Okay.
But if there's only one organisation that has a labour agreement for a specific occupation and you stop working for them, well, how easy is it going to be to find a replacing sponsor?
That's right.
So there's no use for your visa anymore, so your visa expires itself, or they
yes.
actually cancel it on you and
yes.
you have to leave.
So when you are under that labour agreement occupation, you really restricted to that occupation, and only if there is another employer with the same conditions and has exactly the same agreement can sponsor you.
You're allowed to find a sponsor within 90 days of stopping from the one you are with.
Yes. Very, very interesting. We're going to continue about working visas in a moment. Stay with us. We'll continue about that hot topic.
Do you currently have a community service announcement on free-to-air television? If you do, you can now submit it to us as well via our website at MELfeed.video. We have lots of time to fill on these broadcasts, and we are sure to give your announcement a great run on MELfeed.video.
It's easy for things to go wrong around water. More so if you can't swim.
It's great seeing kids confident in the water and enjoying themselves. An important part of keeping kids safer around water is learning to swim.
There are over 600 registered swimming schools that run the Australian Unity Learn to Swim program. To find one, go to the Swim Australia website.
Joy, well-being, community, inclusion.
Special Olympics is a global movement for people with an intellectual disability, creating a world of inclusion and community through sport, where every person is accepted and welcomed, regardless of ability. One athlete, one volunteer, one family member at a time, helping to make the world a better place. Join the inclusion revolution by supporting Special Olympics.
And choose to include.
Transports of Distant Delight is a mixed selection of transportation pictures from here and there and almost everywhere, but not quite. Some quirky, some mundane, some from the past, perhaps reflecting a transit system that has vanished into history, and some from thriving transport entities that continue to endure despite the constant pressures from the all-pervasive motorcar. Enjoy.
Welcome back to NAT Chat, and we're going to continue with Kelly to the topic of working related visas in Australia. And Kelly is a registered migration agent. So let's continue with those labor related visas. And if I come here with 457 visa and I have an occupation, and I've got a temporary employment for a couple of years or so, how can I think or help myself, or can this be used as a step to permanent visa in Australia? How does this can connect?
Once you're here on a 457 and so you're under a sponsorship, you have a sponsoring employer, and you continue working with the same employer for 2 years. Okay. After the 2 years, the same employer can sponsor you for a permanent visa.
All right.
Okay. Which means the employer will put in an application requesting, nominating you for a permanent visa under his sponsorship. So it's new applications again.
Okay. All right.
Okay. And you, as an applicant, will need to put in a visa application for the permanent visa.
In this case, the employer, they don't have to re-advertise the job, do they?
No.
Because you're working for them.
Because what you've done is, look, you can go straight into the permanent with a sponsor. Okay. Right. What happened? We've got the direct entry and we've got the transit entry. Direct entry means an employer may wish to sponsor you for a permanent visa from the word go.
Oh, okay.
So what they do is they put in the full the application goes in fully, who they are, blah blah, why they want to nominate you, and all that sort of thing. So they need to get approved for that. Their nomination for you for the permanent needs to get approved. You need to apply for the permanent visa. Requirements for the permanent visa is you have to be under 50.
Oh, okay.
Okay. You have to have 6 in IELTS across the board, or the equivalents, because the 186 does allow equivalents.
The IELTS test, we're talking about the English language.
That's right, yes. You have to have a migration skills assessment, which assesses both your qualifications and your work experience. Okay. So that's a direct entry. So if you get approved, it's a permanent visa. There's an obligation to be with your employer for your employer to have you for 2 years, but you are a permanent resident.
Yes.
Okay. So the other way to get to that permanent residency is if you have a 457 temporary visa, which means that you work under your sponsor. You're obliged to always work under a sponsor. You can change sponsors, as I said. You keep with the same employer for 2 continuous years. That same employer can nominate you for a permanent visa for the specific occupation.
All right.
You still have to sit for your IELTS test and get 6s, even though you needed 5s for your 457. You don't need to go through migration skills assessment because your 2 years of working in that occupation with the one employer continuously equals your skills assessment.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that's the difference that it makes.
But you can't avoid the IELTS test.
You can't avoid the English qualifications.
Okay.
No,
All right.
no.
Okay.
I'm to point out for the permanent visas, all right, like all visas,
yes.
It's not just the IELTS test anymore, but it's the equivalent of the TOEFL and the Cambridge test as well.
Yes, yes,
okay?
yes, yes.
But for the 457, it's still just the IELTS.
Okay, that is okay. Then there's a two-way of getting.
That is
into
a transition.
Yes.
Now, if somebody's on a 457 and they've got to do that 2 years with the employer has to be complete and the application put in before they turn 50. So somebody who went on a 457 at the age of 49 will not be able to do that.
Ah, okay.
Because they'll be 51 after 2 years.
So they cannot do it.
They can go into direct.
Yes, they can go to direct, but in this case, we have the skill assessments coming proceed that. Okay, how important is for the candidate to find a credible employer? Is there any problem with credibility of companies who sponsor?
Okay, what we're going to point out is that a specific part of the credibility is obviously tested by immigration themselves because they need to approve a sponsor. But
generically, what immigration looks for?
Well, they look at the statements. We have a whole, really, when we do an application of this type, the employer's file is this high, the visa applicants is this high.
Oh, okay.
Because the full financial statements go through, business plans go in, and a lot of times visa applicants don't understand exactly what a sponsor goes through to be able to sponsor them. So I think there has to be an understanding. You know, they do take on certain obligations against the visa applicant. So
not any employer
it is a whole process.
It's not an automatic process that any employer can get.
New companies can, but you've got to show the business plan, the growth of your business and everything like that. Right. Financials are taken into account. People that work for you are taken into account. How many people you employ, who are Australians, are you spending money on training because they're obliged to spend money, X amount of money on training. So there's a whole lot of prerequisites that they have to meet to be approved. Now, on the credibility part, of course, there's always the other side, besides the books, where I would say, meet with your employer, find out about them, talk to people about them. Unfortunately, we've had sad cases where people have come on 457s, have been abused. They're not, you know, Fair Work has gotten involved. Fair Work will get involved, even though you're a 457 visa holder.
It is that checking of the employer and the credibility of the employer is not just for the immigration to have the assurance of the employer, it's for the applicant himself.
I would say so.
That's right.
I would say so. Yes. Be sure about it, because unfortunately what happens is people come here under the specific visa, especially, and you know they face really hard times. They're too scared to talk because it means that their employment will end and then they will not have another sponsor, and we hear sad cases.
We're going to continue this on working related visa on the third part of the segment today. Stay with us, we'll be back with you shortly.
Hi, I'm Darren McElwain from Air FM Drive. You can tune into my show from 3 to 6 p.m. on 88.0 in Penrith and also on tunein.com. And apparently, we don't throw rocks. Air FM Drive.
Australia Day means a time for reflection in one way. We're really lucky to live in such a country, and it's really an opportunity to connect with people who are really close to you and important in your life. I hope and wish for a society that truly respects everybody in every shape and form. On Australia Day, I'll be actually at the tennis. and I'll be sharing that with my friend. Doesn't get much better than that, really.
Get together on Australia Day. Go to australiaday.org.au to find out how.
Fabulous minutes every week. Meet the famous, the fortunate and the fashionable as Steve and Jacqueline take you to all the events around town. Not to be missed, it's the most fabulous 15 minutes you'll ever see.
Show Me the Way creates the first social networking sites for Australia's Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students. With secure online mentoring, Show Me the Way supports students to complete their schooling and continue to TAFE, university or vocational education. Show Me the Way connects students with e-mentors from corporate Australia. With secure online mentoring, Show Me the Way supports students to complete Year 12. To donate, visit showmetheway.org.au.
Welcome back to NAT Chat, and we're going to continue with the topic of working-related visas. And Kelly, you are so good enlightening us into this subject, and we're talking about sponsorship before, okay? And if I'm a professional, or if I want to come to work in Australia, to have a permanent visa in Australia, to be a migrant, if you like, is sponsorship the only way to do it?
No, it's not. And I'm glad you said migrant, because working visas, permanent working visas, are migration visas.
Yes,
okay?
That's right.
So there are other avenues. You don't need to always have a sponsor.
Okay.
It means independently applying for a visa based on your qualifications and your experience. Okay. It's what people normally refer to as the point system visas or the skill select visas.
Okay.
All right. So that means still your occupation has to be on those lists.
Okay.
There's different types of visas under those categories as well, and depending on the type of visa, you also have to be on the specific list, one or the other.
Sometimes there is a bit of a confusion, because you can see on a list a specific occupation, but there's more into that list, and in that occupation might be more screening into what do they mean by this.
Yes.
And sometimes the understanding of one occupation in a European country is completely different to the understanding of the same occupation here. Is it easy accessible, that information? Can you find?
Easily accessible statistics. Australian Bureau of Statistics provides that answer.
Okay.
Okay, which is publicly available to everybody, is what it's called the ANSCO, ANZSCO, list of occupations.
And this is what immigration is using as a definition?
This is what immigration uses as a definition of a position. This is what the skill assessment authorities use.
Okay. So before I apply, it's a good idea to...
It's a good idea to go through. You have to cover the majority of the tasks and duties on those lists. Okay. That's where you're going to find the minimum requirements of qualifications, whether the minimum is a diploma, whether it's a bachelor degree, or whether it's a certificate for. That's where you're going to find a whole list of the duties and tasks related to that occupation. I don't like to call it a Bible, because it's not. It's a piece of statistics.
Yes.
But unfortunately, we have to treat it as a Bible. Because that's what they use.
So in any application that I'm going to make, I'm going to be tested based on that.
Yes, your background, your experience, your qualifications are going to be tested against that.
For example, if my occupation, that's a description in Australian terms, that's how I need to focus on.
That's right. People should not get confused. It's not a legal description of an occupation. It doesn't mean if you go and work for a company in Australia, those are the jobs you're going to be doing. So don't go to Fair Work afterwards and say, but they're making me do this 11th thing that wasn't on the list. It's a piece of statistics.
Just for the immigration use.
Yeah, it's not just for the immigration. It's from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, and it's not just for immigration. It's an indication of how the market works And if you've got these tasks, it also helps define them. If you want people to do 1, 2, 3, 4 things, then this is the occupation you're looking for. So it does assist in a lot of ways in the market.
Yes. Apart from my occupation, because you mentioned about the point system.
System, I'll get that to you very easily. Point system counts on age.
Okay.
So when we start, there's a maximum of 30 points you can get on that. So you've got somebody aged between 24 to 32 gets a maximum of 30 points, and then it starts dropping to the age of 50. Okay. Qualifications, they start from a diploma and start going upwards to a bachelor and a doctorate with a maximum of 20 points. Your English test, okay, I will use the IELTS as a base because it's more easily known. You need 6s across the board in order to be eligible to put in an expression of interest to apply, because these have got different processes. A 7 across the board gives you 10 points, an 8 across the board gives you 20 points. Okay. Your experience, depending on whether it's Australian experience or overseas experience, and on the years, gives you points as well. And there's a few other little 5-pointers here and there that you can pick up.
If I have a family, does this work against me?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't?
It doesn't. In fact, your partner who may be qualified in an occupation on the sole list can actually go through migration skills assessment and give you points. Even though the visa comes under yours. Okay. So these are little 5-pointers that exist on the list.
Make a difference, isn't it?
They do make a difference. You need a minimum of 60 points to be allowed to put in an expression of interest. Because what happens in these cases, you put in an expression of interest and that goes into a pool. You nominate which occupation you're putting this in for. Immigration picks out people. So obviously if you've just got 6 and somebody else has got 80, they'll get the first invitation. They invite people to put in an application, then you've got 2 months to put in your application.
Okay.
And your application has to match what you put in your expression of interest, otherwise it gets refused.
That's right.
So these are visas where you don't need to have a sponsor. There is one category, one subclass that's got a nomination by state. That's when we go and look at the state lists. And if a nomination, like if an occupation is found by the Victorian government that it's required in Victoria, then they put that on the state list, which means that then you can ask for a nomination, but you do that through your expression of interest.
Nomination is not the same as sponsorship?
No, it's not. It basically says the state looks at your qualifications and says, we would like this person to come and live in Victoria and work here. So they're not actually taking you on for a job. Finding a job is your business, with these visas. Okay, they assess that you are wanted in Australia, you have the right and good qualifications to be in Australia, and you are going to offer to the community here. So they will give you that permanent visa. But finding a job, it's up to you. And be careful, because people don't get benefits for 2 years, so make sure you find jobs.
Exactly.
But you can work on any job you want. I had to say that.
Okay, that was my question. That means if I come on my own without a sponsor and I'm successful, and I land in Aussie land, so for 2 years you just mentioned now, I do not have any other benefits but to work.
Exactly, and you don't have any medical. I mean, you've got to cover yourself on everything for 2 years. The usual period, that's say the 104 weeks. But you may have applied and been approved because you're an excellent civil engineer. You come here, nobody's employing you. Nothing's stopping you from working as a barman.
Okay. Right. Kelly, thank you very much. We did have 4 programs so far, and I think it's very, very useful information, and a very hot topic about immigration, and can be very hot for some people and relaxed for those who do have the permanent residency in Australia. To our viewers, thank you for staying with us. We're going to be back next week at the same time.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
It was quite an interesting life. Matter of fact, I'd go back to it tomorrow.
Distinguished guests, Connies, Gunzels, ladies and gentlemen. This exhibition explores the world of Victoria's Trammie family, its culturally diverse Trammies, trams, and Victoria's rather eccentric tram tradition. This exhibition has been produced in collaboration with Gregor McCaskey, the enthusiastic staff at the Immigration Museum, and the Connies Performance Troupe. Special thanks to Normie Maddox, I hope he's here tonight, from the Melbourne Tramways Museum, a former Trammie and President of the Tramways Union, Warren Doubleday, and the crew at the Ballarat Tram Museum, Dennis O'Hoy, Darren Hutchinson, and Kim Smith, the Trammies from the Bendigo Tramways. Special thanks also to the Melbourne Trammies, of which a number are present here this evening, and my old mates from the South Melbourne Depot, of whom I had a wonderful 10 years with, mostly spent on the bag. We thank Vic Health, who have sponsored this exhibition through their Arts for Health program. When you travel around through this exhibition, you'll see beautiful models of trams, a Bendigo Burnie, 658W class, cables, Zs and As. You'll see framed photos of the Melbourne Depot Harmonica Band from the 1930s and the first graduation class of women Connie conductresses from 1941. Hear a cheeky BBC radio interview of 5 Trammies and journey past books, badges and uniforms. Taste a little of the Melbourne-Calcutta Tram Jatra, Tramways Friendship, and explore the habits and ritual of the tram enthusiast Gunzel. We set out to produce a storyline that puts our tram world into context. The influence of Major General Sir Robert Risen, the Italian-born Union delegate from Essendon Depot, who led the campaign to save the Footscray Moonee Ponds tram line. The Dutch-born delegate from South Melbourne, keen on Connies, the Trammie family. The exhibition celebrates Melbourne's 118 years of rare and continuous tram tradition, one of the 5 largest tram systems in the world, and the only true surviving tram system in all the English-speaking world. As they say in Calcutta, Zindabad, Zindabad, long may she live.
May we introduce Mr. R.J. Risson, Chairman of the Tramways Board.
Yes, nothing of course just happens, or if it does, it probably happens wrongly. A great deal of pre-planning is necessary. And in transport, and maybe other things too, the simpler and smoother a thing appears on the surface, the greater the amount of work probably put into it beforehand. My point is well illustrated by this map, showing the board's tram and bus services interweaving and crisscrossing over, some 200 square miles of metropolitan Melbourne. At present, the board has upwards of 4,500 employees, most of them, of course, in uniform, but quite a large number not in uniform backing them up. And it could do with another 200 or 300 right now.
Just look at that, will you? Great monster. All they do is cause congestion and block up the road.
But surely it's the other way around, Mr. Johnson. It's you who's blocking the tram.
Oh, that's not the point, old man. The roads belong to cars. If I had my way, I'd get rid of trams altogether.
All right, we'll give your recommendation a try. Let's see. Yes, this should do. There, that's fine. Now let's take the tram out of the picture. It certainly leaves a nice wide space. Ah, but we forgot. That tram was carrying 90 passengers, Mr. Johnson. How do we get those 90 passengers to work, now that their tram is gone?
Simple, old man. Let them drive cars.
Thank you. Now, statistics show that each car driven to the city contains an average of 1 1/4 people. Now, 1 1/4 into 90, yes, that's about 70 cars.
Good heavens.
As you can see, these cars, even when they're jammed head to tail, take up 20 times more road space than the tram did. Multiply them by several thousand peak period tram trips a day, and you'd have 1/3 of a million additional cars on the road. There'd be such traffic chaos that none of us would ever get to work. Oh no, Mr. Johnson. Trams don't cause traffic congestion. They help to minimize it.
All right then. I was mistaken. You can't accommodate all the city's tram passengers and cars. Well, replace the trams with buses then.
Certainly. Buses coming up.
Hey, wait a minute. You've replaced that tram with more than one bus. You've got 2 1/3 buses.
I had to. A bus has a far smaller passenger carrying capacity than a tram. The Tramways Board is in the bus business, in a big way. But it confines its buses to areas of sparser population. Melbourne's densely populated areas need trams. In situations like these, trams are the motorist's best friend. They help keep the roads clear of traffic that would prevent you from driving at all. When it comes to moving large crowds, there's no vehicle more efficient than a tram. While cars are still struggling to get free of the parking area, the trams are off and away. Already they've cleared most of the crowd. But that's only part of the story. Trams are good citizens of Melbourne too. If you have a little time to spare, I'll show you some of the many ways in which trams contribute to the good life of Melbourne. First and most obviously, there's the transport service they provide. Whichever direction you want to go in the Melbourne area, there's a tram or bus to take you comfortably and safely.
Here we are at the Immigration Museum on Flinders Street in the city of Melbourne, and I'm here today to have a chat to a number of people who've been involved in the history of the tram world. And the first person we're going to speak to today is Fortunato Grosso, and he's been heavily involved with the tram since 1983. First question I have to ask you, Fortunato, is how did you become involved with the tramways? Can you tell us a little bit of that history?
I started as a conductor in 1993 at Malvern Depot, and I'm still there working as a driver at the moment. I'm 65 and still working.
And can you tell us a little bit about life in the Malvern Depot? What's it like?
It's like a family depot. It's everyone knows everyone. We try to help each other. It's a good between us, and everyone helps each other. What I can tell you that when I started working at Malvern Depot, that was like a family job, really. Like I start there because my uncle was working there, my brother was working there, and so many people was like that. Now it's changing, it's not like before, but before was like a family job, really. Everyone knows everyone.
And now it's different?
Now it's different because it's not like before, really.
Welcome to the Immigration Museum. Folks, we have with us this afternoon Joyce Barry. Joyce was the first woman to drive trams in Melbourne back in 1975. So welcome, Joyce. Joyce, do you want to tell us what depots you worked at and when you started in the tramways as just the first port of call for us?
The first port of call was Brunswick Depot, and I was there for 18 and a half years.
Did you have a favourite tram line?
Yes, Brunswick to the city.
Brunswick to the city, Sydney Road? What shifts did you prefer doing, just to give people a little bit of an insight into the depot life, the life of a trammie in that era? Were you an early shift woman, broken shift, lates?
Broken shifts mainly.
And what was it sort of like? You'd be starting work 6:30, 7 o'clock?
Yes. Yes, about 7 o'clock you'd do broken shifts. You'd go off at 11 and come back on again about 2:30, 3 o'clock.
Tell me, when you were a conductress, what was the biggest take that you used to have on a day?
How much did you collect, Joyce? And you saw decimal currency change as well.
How much do you think you would take on a busy shift?
Well, the record still stands in Brunswick.
Yes.
Yes.
It was taken by a girl doing a Sunday afternoon shift.
Sunday afternoon.
She took £408.
God, crikey, £408. Joyce, you were saying how some depots were very, in a sense, progressive towards women becoming tram drivers. Some depots were against it.
No, only Preston and Essendon were very much against us.
Yes.
In fact, they were downright rude.
Was there any reason for it that some depots were like that and others weren't?
Only because of the union delegates.
So it came down to the union delegates, you think? The character of those?
Yeah. For instance, Jimmy's the union delegate at Essendon then, and he put it around the depots that he wouldn't work behind a woman. She'd have to have balls before he'd work behind a woman.
Joyce, you started in the year of the Olympic Games, when the Olympic Games came to Melbourne.
Yes.
Any memories at all that stand out there?
My word, there are.
Any you want to share with us at all?
Well, some of them are funny.
Yes.
But I had a woman come up to me with a little boy, and he was distressed, and she said to me, please, quick. Ooh. And it was the actions for somebody for the toilet.
Yes. Okay.
And I just grabbed the little boy by the hand and ran across Swanson Street amongst the traffic, leaving Mum behind.
I'm able to dream, I'm able to smile, I'm able to grow, and I'll go the extra mile, one day at a time. So put your hands together, we can change lives forever. Together, we're able.
Able Australia. Together, we're able.
Locals here made the shocking discovery this morning. Police have sealed off the entire beach.
There is a killer. One of the worst killers in Australia. Skin cancer. Every year, skin cancer kills over 1,700 Australians. Don't be a victim. This summer, protect yourself against skin cancer.
It's barbie season, so it's time for a barbecue safety check. Clean away any grease build-up. Swap systems assure that the bottle inspection is in date. The bottle should be upright and not hanging by the hose. And make sure your regulator and hose is undamaged, unblocked and unkinked. Check connections using soapy water. When done, turn off clockwise at the bottle first. A quick barbie and gas safety check always means a safe and enjoyable summer.
Are you playing renovation roulette? I'm John Jarrett, and I know that deadly asbestos lies hidden in 1/3 of Aussie homes. It can be found in any home built or renovated before 1987. Lurking in walls, under floor covering, behind tiles, in roofing. Asbestos, it was used everywhere. So if you're a renovator or a tradie, you could be risking your life and the lives of others. Remember, go slow. Asbestos, it's a no-go. Visit asbestosawareness.com.au to learn what you need to know.
We've got Reg Dean with us here this afternoon. Now, Reg, we've got to knowing because Reg was a tramway worker on the Geelong tramways. In that period, you were how many years on the tramways?
Near enough to 10 years.
A great camaraderie in amongst the tramway workers?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They didn't matter where you seen them. They always recognised you. Didn't matter how you were dressed or anything. We're like a brotherly system.
And Geelong, for instance, in Melbourne, where I've been a tramway worker there, and we had 8 different tram depots and quite an extensive system. Yeah. In Geelong, it was about a 20-kilometre system, 12 and a quarter miles is what we've been reading through. And in a sense, you had that one depot.
One depot.
How many trammies? Can you remember how many trammies you'd have?
At the peak period of the tramway workers, that's motormen conductors, was just about 80.
The trammies themselves, were there characteristic connies, anyone that used to sing or perhaps recite a bit of poetry or play an odd trick,
Oh, we had a few of those, yes. We had one fella, whenever he was in the depot having a meal break, he'd start up an argument just before he was due to go out, and he'd get 2 fellas arguing the point like hell, and he'd just get up and walk out and leave them arguing.
He's a nice bloke. What, flustering the crew, was he?
Yeah, that was a fellow by the name of Dick Lodge, who's no longer with us, of course, but yes. He was a character, and we had Eric Sweeten, who was a well-known fella on the trams.
Yes.
He swam all the year round, and he taught swimming at the Eastern Beach.
Yes.
And one of his tricks used to be, because the city depot for most trams was up at the corner of Ryrie and Moorabool Streets.
Yes.
Especially in the holiday season, he'd get out of the tram and he'd point up in the sky, and you'd see the people come out from underneath the verandas and all look up.
Yes.
But there was nothing there.
Right. Okay.
They did have conductresses on the Geelong tramways during the war, and as the fellas returned from the Army, Air Force or Navy, the conductresses were reduced in number and replaced by ex-servicemen.
Interesting. And the women that then had filled the spaces of the men on the Geelong tramways, like the Melbourne tramway story, then made room for a lot of the men that were returning?
That's correct, yes. I think when I'd been there about 2 years, 3 years, and there was 4 conductresses left out of approximately 25.
How much was a tram ride in Geelong? Did you have 1 section, 2 section tickets, etc.?
Yes, we had different sections. We had a penny section, a tuppenny section, a threepenny section, and then on the north we had a 4-penny section. And later, of course, they increased. The penny section disappeared, became a tuppenny, then the threepenny became 4pence, and the 4pence became 5pence, and eventually became 6pence. Children were half price. We worked the whole system. You very seldom were on the same route from one day to the next. You might be on Belmont North today,
yep.
You might be on West tomorrow, or you could be on East Jewel the next day. Then you could go to Eastern Park the following day.
Yes.
Some days you were on early shift, which we call day shift, which commenced, the first tram out was at 6:10 of the morning.
Yes.
To go to North Geelong. And we had one character on there that he knew we only had a £1 note in change, and every Monday morning he'd hand up a £10 note for his fare, which at that time was 4p. So of course it doesn't take trammies long to get to know what goes on, so we put enough money in to make up a change for £10.
Yes.
And yes, Greg Clark was on it next Monday, and he's going to cop him, so he got the £10 worth of change in a brown paper bag, which was made up of shillings, sixpences, threepence, and a few pennies and a few halfpennies. And it was £10 less the 4p. So when he handed up the £10 note, I'm not sure it was Greg, but he'll do for the time being, he took the £10 note, handed him the brown paper bag, and he said, I think when you check that, he said, you'll find it's the correct change.
Yes.
He was still counting his change when he got to the North Terminus. He never tried it again.
Never tried it again.
Yeah, well, we did get a petition up, of which 16,000 signatures, but the council, the SEC, Ford Motor Company, Bender's Busways and the Shell Company didn't want anything to do with tramways.
So you're up against some pretty strong forces there.
Melbourne is a bit odd like Calcutta, I think. So we come to celebrate and discover our oddness together. Calcutta and Melbourne, interestingly, are two great rare tramway survivors, and so in that respect, Melbourne would be the last in the English-speaking world, and Calcutta definitely the last in the subcontinent. And out of, let's say, the Asian cities, your Kuala Lumpurs, your Bangkoks, your Jakartas, that once had tramway systems, and of course Bombay, Madras, Karachi, and other grand Indian cities, Calcutta's the last one. We have similar stock in that when we drive these older version trams, the wooden trams in Melbourne, we share something with Calcutta as well. We have old British designed, in a sense, controller trams where we turn a wheel and ding ding, you've got sort of air brake system and a manual controller thing. We share that distinctly between ourselves.
So the project has involved the tramway workers very closely as a part of the whole of the project. And we work with the conductors, the drivers, tram mistri, breakdown, PWD, overhead electrical, jamadars, inspectors. All of the people that are involved with the CTC are involved in the Tram Wuchta, in the festival. As an example, Mr. Khan drove the Tram Jatra tram.
Hugh, what was it about the tram that intrigued you suddenly? What was it that clicked that whole interest?
I think basically because it was a fixed track, so therefore you always knew where a tram went, because you could see the tram lines and the overhead wires heading off into the distance, and I think that's what started to fascinate me, that these trams went somewhere, and that sort of brought the interest up. And also too, at that stage Sydney was getting rid of its trams, so that basically as I was growing up, every 6 months a major section of the tramway network would close.
Now Ray, Gunzels is a theme that we've covered in the exhibition upstairs. You're an enthusiast yourself?
Yes, I'm more interested in the history of trams, the past history that I would like to find out more about. That's why I kept 4 scrapbooks, and that's like I've given you some photocopies from them.
A lot of your material's actually in that current exhibition, because you've been sending me books from the Tramway Board, etc., Tramway Union magazines. So, you know, you've been an avid collector of anything that's been written up in the newspaper over the years, re-tramways?
Yes, I've also got 73 old Union magazines, starting from 1964, which I intend to give away, and probably some of them to you. Because there's no actually museum here, is there? There's no real...
This is one of the battles that we have at the moment. We're actually trying to get a museum up and running so we can house all of these great collections.
Do you like trams?
I do like tram, and because one thing, like I like driving, and this thing you drive, it's not like a car or buses that you have a steering wheel, but this one got no steering wheel. And so, you know, You either drive it, the old tram they drive with hand, and the new tram you drive with feet. And so your hand you got to just only play, on a button, pressing the gong and the door switch.
In San Francisco, they've got a line there that not just the cable cars, but they've got a line there. They've got 5 lines that have got the latest modern light rail vehicles on them. They've also got a line they've just built, a brand new line called the F line that operates heritage cars, not unlike our Ws. In fact, one of our Ws is running on that system now.
So it actually fits the gauge?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I was driving it in November.
Tell us some of the feedback you've had from people, international travellers maybe, or even local people, just about the idea of a tourism tram or the city circle trams?
Well, not just the tourism tram or city circle tram, but trams in themselves. Most of them say, what a wonderful transport system you've got. What an excellent transport system, and so cheap compared to other forms, and they are amazed.
On the whole, multiculturalism has been a success on the trams. We seem to have developed our own successful form of Australian multicultural English, and the cultural diversity is definitely a part of the boisterous life of the workforce. This is called A Few Bones Got Buried Last Night. Vietnamese were dancing with Nigerian, Chilean with Indonesian, Maori with Sri Lankan, Scots with Fijian. South Melbourne Depot were on the dance floor. A farewell dinner for those taking the package, their parting gifts, model trams made of wood, appropriate for the W, and made in Melbourne as the W class were, the Cadillacs of the tram world. The presentation was short and jocular whilst the crowd partied on, an unsentimental lot on the whole. This is an occupation with a high turnover, accidents frequent, humour black and cynical, where a long-term employee is regarded as a curious fossil. A high-stress job, dealing often with difficult passengers with no training but the sink or swim. No dealing with personal problems, but a lot of good times, laughing and joking with your mates. Because of the 6-day working weeks, ever-changing shift work and some with unhappy lives, more time is spent with your workmates than with your family. The depot was more family than family, a fractious family, which knows how to party and forget for a while the disputes between management and staff, gunzall and grunge, smokers and non-smokers, between people themselves, for the tramways foster strong personalities. A few bones got buried as they partied on, surprising who was dancing with whom. When armistice was announced on the Eastern Front in the First World War, German soldiers danced with Russian. Last night, half of the nations of the world were dancing, Irish with English, Dutch with German, Indian with Italian, Malaysian with Greek, Filipino with El Salvadoran, Russian with Australian born, on and on, into the night, with no regard that the first tram was running out at 6:41.
Coming up next, Harmony and Diversity, then Red Lobster Poetry. 15 fabulous minutes with Jacqueline and Steve comes up at 10 o'clock. Then at 10:30, Transport's A Distant Delight, the second special episode for MELfeed. And then we close at 10:45. Hope you enjoy your night with us.
Alleluia. Om Mani Padme Om. Allah
Welcome to Harmony and Diversity. Today we're speaking with Nicole Pryor of St Benedict's Catholic Parish in Burwood. As with these programs, first we'll explore the spiritual perspective
for Nicole in this case, and then in our second program, determine the ways in which that's been applied in her life and how it has effect in society. Thanks for coming in, Nicole.
Good to be here, Noel.
You're a Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how that happened. You were born a Catholic?
Yes. Yes, I suppose that's much a part of it. I was born a Catholic. I was brought up very much in the Catholic way. I went to the Catholic school with the Catholic nuns. We would go to church on Sundays and things like that. So it was very much a part of my upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that there's quite a lot of spaces where I've thought I better just, look at other faiths. I don't want to be conditioned to be something or be a product of my environment.
Mm-hmm.
So I have tried very hard to look at other aspects and see other people's ways of doing things and keep on coming back to my Catholic faith.
So it's been a constant process. Now, you're from South Africa. Where does the Catholic faith sit in South Africa? How strong is it?
Well, actually, amongst the African people, it's a growing faith. It's quite different from Europe, where it's declining, and you've got lots of wonderful churches and so on, which are rather barren and empty now. It's a very different form of faith. The African people have got that vibrancy, and they, instead of sitting in serene meditation and things like that, they want to be doing their dancing and shouting their shouts and things like that. That's their way of being, their way of praise. But I think it's also just so much more alive, the faith, to them, because life itself is so much more questioned. They are, in fact, so alive. They're not caught up in the typical things that we are caught up in, with this life of materialism and acquiring things of prestige and position and things like that, because of where they're at and because of their seeing the reality of life as well. They are led to seek that deeper meaning, which I think is a good thing. And that's why they're growing.
Now, the time that you were there, that was during apartheid, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. I was brought up in that apartheid.
Right. And then you had, so in the Catholic faith, like as a child, would your church have had Africans in it, or would it have been all white?
Yes, it was. It was, but they were tended to be quite separate. So still to today, the way the European Africans celebrate their Mass and like to live their spiritual way and seek spirituality is rather different from that of the African people. So they like to go to a Mass and they want to sort of hear this word that they can grow in wisdom from, and they want to, in a more quiet, perhaps introspective way, is how they are growing in faith whilst sharing with others. Whereas the African way is not quite what they are wanting in that serene inner self type of spirituality. So you'd find they would be celebrating also on a Sunday, but they want the whole of their Sunday to be this Mass celebration. So they tend to meet perhaps at a later time after the quieter people have had their 1 hour of Mass. They want to then have their celebration, and they want to have their dance, and they want to draw everything out and make it their day of celebration. And so they tend to do it differently, and that's okay. But so it's not a being told to, but it's just the choice of individuals and their way of wanting to live it and find it. And
do you think that's had any influence on your way of being Catholic, to have experienced that from the start?
I think a slight influence, not a huge one. I think the African way has a lot of influence on my life in undertone sort of ways, little ways. But my actual faith, I don't know that it's affected that much, no.
So you went to a Catholic school?
Yes.
What happened then? Did you go on to work and continue in your Catholicism?
Yes. So I would say, coming back to perhaps to the Catholic schooling, there was a few encounters I had of the spiritual sort, which really, I think, set that pathway in my life. Aside from what I got through grandmothers and seeing the people around me and the direction, the focus, the reason for living, the meaning for life itself that kept them ticking. Sister Imelda is, I think, perhaps the first person who got me started in a way that set a spark, that created a flame that could never quite die. It would perhaps dwindle in size a bit, but yeah, things like that.
And so Sister Imelda was at the school, was it? Or
yes, she was an Irish nun who just had this sort of amazing vibrancy and love, and she just sort of had this inner joy, and she would come up to everybody and have never enough arms to hug everybody, but she had this amazing spirit in her, and she used to do her choir, and we used to be the sort of top performers because she just had that way of getting everything out of you, and that love, making you love what she loved, and which was just quite incredible.
Yes, people like that are pretty dynamic and important in your life. With Mass, you said there was some sort of high points, little sparks in your childhood. Was Sister Imelda the only one, or were there others?
No, there were others. There were quite a number, actually. You know, I sort of even remember seeing the odd sort of little, what was a film in those days, when you'd go into a dark room and the projector would be behind you. Yes. I remember sort of seeing some of our Catholic faith, and it just, it created an excitement, a meeting of something or someone I know, and wanting to find out more, and as a young little girl, knowing that there's something way beyond the here and now, and that this little life of 60 to 80 years is really just the blink of an eye of what is eternal.
Well, it's an appropriate time with the blinking of the eye. We'll blink the eye and we'll go to a break.
Okay.
We'll be back in a moment.
There's a difference between forgetting something once and forgetting it many times. There's a difference between forgetfulness and dementia. Talk to someone who understands. Call the National Dementia Helpline on 1800 100 500.
It was a dark and stormy night in a bar over a strawberry margarita. Steve and Jacqueline had time to kill, so they decided to slaughter it. The result, 15 fabulous minutes. You be the judge.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity. And we're speaking today with Nicole Pryor of St Benedict's Catholic Parish in Burwood. We were discussing your experiences, Nicole, and you mentioned Sister Imelda and the film, etc. What other sort of high points in your Catholic experience come to mind?
Well, again, I think that there are quite a lot. I think from a young girl, having heard how I'd had bad meningitis and encephalitis as a baby, and they thought, you know, I would be dead, and if I had survived, I'd be brain damaged and things like that. And I think that those sort of things had made me question things a little bit. And well, if I've got this, maybe a second chance, and you know, what is it all about? Things like that. And I think perhaps with Sister Imelda and that sort of spark, amongst others, as a young girl, I used to then go into prayer, try prayer, and I wish as an adult I could achieve what I used to achieve then. So I think it was just that, and I know that at that young age, it's not what as an adult you could shape or be told to believe and then hence create. But it was a very personal encounter I used to have. And I remember those evenings of prayer and just being in a state of absolute sort of rapture and awe, and that personal relationship I was able to create with not just Creator or the divine, but the man, Jesus Christ himself, which is what then was that root of my following that faith, was a steady, almost conversation type chat, but a knowing and awe of the presence of this God himself in human form, Jesus Christ.
And how old were you at this particular time?
You know, I've wondered that, but it was certainly in my junior school years, and I would say it was through those latter years of what here in Australia would be years 4, 5, 6, when I was at that sort of peak of that, and used to experience in prayer what I wish I could these days, and that was certainly the beginning of my motivation for life, or what it is that makes life worth living, the reason for this short life in preparation.
There's an experience of sort of almost an ecstasy by the sound of it.
Absolute, actually, or ecstasy, not knowing or being aware of time, just that. You know, sort of remember, in fact, how as a little child my eyes would just sort of pour with just an awe. It was just a wonderful experience, and not something that was led by someone else or followed by reading a book or anything, but it was a childlike way of kneeling down and opening to and hence receiving.
So in that, you've obviously got a high awareness, or at that point had a high spiritual awareness. So you went on, and you mentioned the fact that you have experimented with following other faiths. What were they, and how did that come about?
Well, I think one of those sort of things that I actually regret, which almost put an end to that, was my having a very close friend who was very into the sort of reborn Christian way, and hence believing that many things about the Catholic faith are evil, in fact, and you know, you can't, or it might be the evil spirit at work in these things, which made me hesitant, stand back and need to question things about it. And I think it was, again, with life being this whole journey, we realise in the end how we grow through it all, and we need those times of questioning to find a deeper understanding of the real truth that we never will understand, but get tiny little specks of or glimpses of. But so in that way, you know, no harm was done by it. But that was the first questioning that I had of this faith. I know that going to their gatherings and their whole approach to being reborn, and that this Catholic faith that believed in the things that sets the Catholic faith apart, perhaps, which is our belief that the mother of the man, we believe human God, man, Jesus Christ himself, that our belief in having any respect for or relationship with the woman who was his mother, that was a very wrong thing, and you know, lots of other little things about the Catholic faith that I think people know well and that I don't need to go into. So those sort of things made me withdraw from it all, thinking I better just start looking at things and seeing what is in fact right.
And that's understandable in that. So you asked the question, you had a look, and where did your answers come from?
Well, as I say, that was a number of years, and I would say right through my senior school days, there was quite a lot of that. There was my basic Catholic faith that did keep me going, and I think I went back to after a couple of years, but it kept me questioning. It kept me thinking, I must just know for my own self that it's not a shaped environment that I'm brought up in, thinking if I was born into a Jewish family, I would be Jewish. If I was born into a Buddhist family, I would be Buddhist. So what is it that's making me as an individual choose a faith, a way of having my relationship with our Creator, our Divine, that we all have different ways of looking at?
Yes. So you were conscious of a prism, which other people perceive it differently through the same prism.
Absolutely.
And did you turn to anybody at this time? Did you turn to a Sister Imelda or someone like that?
Well, I think that I've sort of tried reading lots of books and hearing different approaches to this, but I did have available to me more of my Catholic friends and that sort of approach.
And something which we don't have more available is actually time.
Yes.
So we'll actually go to a break and we'll pick up in a moment. We'll be back in a moment.
Every time we buy certified organic, we're making a choice to help our environment and build a healthier community. But it can be hard to know that what we're buying is truly organic. The Australian Certified Organic logo is only given to products after a very rigorous process. So when you see this logo, it means you can trust that there are no genetically modified foods, no animal cruelty, and no harsh synthetic pesticides used. A healthier community is always better for our future. So the next time you shop, look for this logo.
If you were living on the streets, wouldn't you want more than just your best friend to keep you safe, warm and dry? Donate to Backpack Bed for Homeless and give warm, waterproof protection and dignity tonight. Call 1300 OzHelp.
Hush, little baby, don't you cry. Daddy's gonna sing you a lullaby. When you're sleeping safe and sound, you've got the proudest dad in town. I remember when I first saw you, your heart beating as you grew. We'll read you stories to help you dream. Your mommy and I are a perfect team. I can't wait to hear you sing or watch as you put on a wedding ring. One day you'll have children too. Remember the times I sang to you.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and today we're speaking with Nicole Pryor of St Benedict's Catholic Parish in Burwood. Nicole, you were mentioning the fact that in negotiating your way through a religion which is Christian but not Catholic, and so you were taken down pathways of criticism, etc. You found that to reinforce yourself, one of the things was Catholic friends. How did that work?
Well, I think there were a few of them, but my very special friend to this day is Jane, and she was one of those people in my class at school who was perhaps not such a cool one. You know, she wasn't the sort of mixing with the right people or doing the sort of typical things that teenagers might like to do. But she was academically correct, and she was first team hockey, and she ended up being head girl at our school and things like that. And when we were in the same small little art group in our final years, because I actually dropped that subject but picked it up in our final years because of what I wanted to study thereafter. And she and I sort of hit it off. And she is one of those people, quite unique, and I don't know quite where it stems from, but she loved the Catholic faith. She's a very spiritual person. She's one of those people who to this day has just given and given and given of herself. You know, she sort of, any talents that are given to her are for the purpose of serving others. And that friendship we struck up then was just something that, you know, used to feed a fire within, not create anything, but just we would be chatting until late at night, and it was just one of those wonderful things, something where conversation can be such an excitement. Again, not what intellect can do, but when it sets the spark of spirit in you. And then I was very lucky, I think, you know, blessed that we ended up being the two from our Johannesburg school that went to Cape Town University. And so we sort of continued that amazing friendship through there. And I never did stop questioning other things. I saw my good friend Jane as being that one who's in that capsule who loves and believes only this Catholic Church, and thought that I'd better then, you know, just keep on questioning other things. But in that conversation with her, I always have learnt a lot. And through that and my close friendship with her, came to start trying the things that she did and being fed by daily going to our Mass. One of those things that just has been my strength, you know, is more important to me than brushing my teeth every day. It's just that thing that gives life meaning, that feeds me. It's that time out, it's that sustenance, it's what I've come to love more and more the more I look into it. And the more I study it, the more I see it, the more definite and great that picture is, the more I realise how little I do know, but the more awesome it becomes.
Yes, well, in the next program we'll be talking about the RCIA, which leads you to learn more and more. You might explain what the RCIA is for people who don't know what it is.
Yes. Well, the RCIA is the Rite of Christian Initiation of Adults. So you get one with the C at the end, which is for children. And this is very much for those who want to become Catholic, and we'll be saying the word Catholic. If you look at the origin of Catholic, is our Christian faith. It's with a small c. It's not this group of Christians called Catholics. And so just for this time being, and because where I've been led, it's not been the reason why I tick or my vocation in life or anything, but I've come to know you through that little element of it. And yes, I certainly do enjoy sharing with other people who might be inquiring into this Catholic faith. And I think, like all things, in giving you receive. I realise more and more how little I know. Like, you know, any great astronomer or scientist will tell you the same. The more you know, the more you realise how little you know. But in that realising, find out more, and on finding out more, grow in a greater awe and love for it, finding the facts.
So there's a process of enrichment happening in your faith even to this day.
Absolutely. You know, I think as I've heard time and time said, you know, it's no relationship can ever cease to grow. I remember listening to, and I forget the name of Celine Dion's husband, and he spoke about how when they had met and by the time they got married, he was madly in love with her. And she's been with him through all sorts of ups and downs in life and so on. And he said he was in love with her when they got married. But now there isn't the word. And I think it's the same sort of thing in any relationship, our relationship with whatever you want to say, God, Creator, Divine, and with my faith, my way of seeing that, the glasses I wear, to have that relationship with God, my belief that Jesus Christ is the man, God himself. And so, yes, again, it goes beyond a love. It goes beyond a faith, because to me the word faith seems almost a blind believing of what you've been told to say, I will believe it. Whereas faith, I think, becomes something so much more than that. It's intellect, it's emotion, it's that inner depth of being that is something that ignites, sustains, and makes us grow greater and greater awe, because we realize how our little human mind begin to comprehend and it's like, I always sort of think of this massive line of, where I might be in this line of knowledge and where you might be and where somebody who knows nothing might be. But as we, draw our perspective out on this, it's that tiny dot of that same one long ruler that we're on. So,
thank you, Nicole, for that lucid explanation. That's a beautiful explanation. And you have agreed to come back for the next program, I understand, and we'll talk about RCIA.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week when we'll be speaking with Nicole about the RCIA.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu
Hi, I'm Lane Beachley. Australians have recycled enough printer cartridges to cover Bondi Beach 12 times. That's kept 11,000 tonnes of valuable resources out of landfill. Drop your used original cartridges into the special boxes at participating retail outlets, and they'll be turned into new products, from pens to road surfaces. Help us keep up the good work. Find out more at cartridges.planetark.org.
Here are the current weather readings for Melbourne, Geelong, Ballarat, Shepparton, Bendigo and Echuca on the MELfeed video weather wall. It also includes tomorrow's forecast and expected minimum temperatures in these areas overnight. This is the MELfeed video weather wall on a different sort of TV. MELfeed Video. Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
This is Makita. It's a Papua New Guinean word for a secret that everyone knows, no one can talk about. And I guess it's for all the people in China at the moment. I'll let you figure out why. There is a word that I cannot say. It is stuck to my tongue, caught amongst the silent K's and unvoiced vowels that languish in the hollow spaces of my language. The word trapped between my teeth is a mouthful of paint, staining the sum of my speech, leaving me desperate to give it voice and exit. It is a virus, spread via desperate glances, meeting, difficult pauses in conversation. This city is struck dumb. This forbidden word is holding our mouths shut. It is the worst kind of secret. It is one we are keeping from each other.
On to my last poem. This is a poem about the torment of being a lawyer and a poet at the same time. You're poor, and you still write shit. This is called "The Diluvians Are Coming," and it's basically a letter, an open letter to all of you tonight. Dear Sir/Madam, I refer to previous correspondence in this matter and confirm that you are indeed a fuckwit. My advice follows herewithness. Paragraph 1. There is nothing intrinsically wrong with lawyers. Your expectations that we should always be able to save you from your own stupidity are not well founded. We cannot always pull a rabbit out of our arse in order to save yours from hard time, if you get my drift. 2. Never, under any circumstances, use the word omphalos in a poem, you pretentious wanker. 3. An exception to rule enunciated in the above paragraph may arise if and only if you are A, Irish, and B, heinously talented. Paragraph 4. I realise that I just used the word omphalos in paragraph 2 of this poem, and that neither of the conditions set out in paragraph 3A or 3B are satisfied because I am neither A, Irish, nor B, talented. Paragraph 5. Do not criticise me for this. It is like me getting into trouble for saying, Mum, what does fuck mean? I was quoting, you pedantic arsewipe. Paragraph 6. Yes, I realise I used the word omphalos again in paragraph 4. Please refer to paragraph 5. Paragraph 7. Yes, I realise that I used the word omphalos in the paragraph directly preceding this one. Paragraph 8. I am now going to avoid an infinite regression. Not because I have to, just because I can, and because you are clearly not smart enough to cope. Paragraph 11. This statement is false. Ha! Paragraph 12. The preceding statement, as well as this statement, are both true. Ha! Paragraph 13. I have littered this letter with words that are either A, nonsensical, B, non-existent, or C, make grammatical mistakes in combination with the words that surround them. I have done this to trick you. Suck shit. And if you do not identify at least 2/3 or 67% of them, whichever is the shortest, I will increase my fee by a factor of less than 2,500%, whichever is the heathenest. Nurse. I reserve the right to overcharge people who are far less intelligent than me. You charged me $400 to service my 1978 VW Golf. It was only worth $500. And that was in 1997. And I'm angry. And this is payback time. You dodgy fucker. Paragraph 14. Finally, do not use the word antediluvian. Ever. Just don't. And don't use the word pro-diluvian ever, either. You should have absolutely no opinion on diluvians. Leave the diluvians alone. Yours faithfully, Andrew Cunt. Thank you very much.
I haven't read this one for a while. It's called A Language Made Entirely of Silence. They want you to explain it to them. They ask, what is this, which both quickens and slows you? You tell them it is cracking your heart, the way others crack knuckles. It is a drunk man asleep in your lap. It is a window facing a window which is being bricked in. It is the heat rising off the highway your father walked down. It is a room in which everything has lost its place. It is the suit you bought for the funeral of a friend who then decided not to die. It is a language made entirely of silence. Its music so rich you can live off it. It is a weight sunk so deep you're afraid of what pulls it. It's a woman who once was beautiful. A bee trapped under glass. It is a light in the window of a room on the 36th floor of a building in a city you have been to only once, but that light will not stop flickering. It's blood from a stone and a crash in the dark and the longest way home. They tell you they still don't understand. You tell them they never will.
Now on MELfeed Video, here are the latest Monday Tats Lotto results just drawn a short time ago under government supervision. All results shown are subject to confirmation. We hope that these numbers brought you a little bit of luck tonight. If not, there's always next week. Stay tuned to MELfeed Video for more great programs this evening.
Playing the 80s on Air FM 88.0.
Hi, this is Darren McAlane from Air FM Drive. Join me from 3 to 6 p.m. every afternoon on 88.0 in Penrith, and also you can catch me on tunein.com. That's from 3 to 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time.
Playing the 80s on Air FM 88.0.
Man to man, it's time to stop.
Stop the tragic waste of life and the destruction of families, including your own.
Stop blaming drugs and alcohol and believing that walking away makes you weak.
Stop thinking you're a hero and wasting your life behind bars, wishing you could take that one moment back.
Stop the coward's punch.
We reckon one of the most powerful things in the world is this sausage. Because a sausage can do just about anything. It helps people to walk, see and hear, supports families after fire, drought and flood, and even helps plant trees in our community. Our sausages are working to cure cancer, helping farmers in tough times, and connecting people who are new to a community. And at the same time that they're doing all that, they're nurturing the leaders of tomorrow while building friendships that last a lifetime. Yep, these humble sausages are more powerful than you can believe. They're working wonders in our community. And at Lions, so can you. Lions Australia, we serve more than sausages.
This came from seeing a piece of art called "In the Absence of a Broken Arm." It's called "In the Absence." In the absence of life, I will give you a flower in a desert, More thorns than petals, its roots will stretch from coast to coast. In the absence of love, I will give you chocolate and a warm blanket. But unspoken spaces will continue to erode your dreams. In the absence of justice, I will give someone else a gun and a list of names. Now that I've told you this, will you wonder if your name is there? In the absence of questions, I will give you uncomfortable silences. Somewhere on your skin, a ladder of abrasions will gain another rung. In the absence of individuality, I will give you a letter of the alphabet, just for you. The beginning of a new language that will open us like books. In the absence of safety, I will give you a set of directions to a broken glass cathedral. You will call this shelter. You will call this home. In the absence of death, I will take away your memory, but that of a river that you drank from and then crossed without regret.
I'm going to finish with quite an old poem as well, but it's quite fun and it's been a good friend to me over the years, as they say. And it's a poem about growing up, and I grew up in the western suburbs of Sydney in a place called Penrith. And the action of this poem takes place in Penrith. And it takes place on a Saturday evening, on a Saturday night. It takes place on a Saturday night just about that time as the last few layers of daylight are peeled away and they reveal beneath them a gaping wound and the first few strains of a Led Zeppelin tune and a night as thirsty as a hungover dream and the trembling expectations of a 17-year-old. Yeah, I've been there. Bold as buggery. Yeah, I've done that. Blacktown 2nd Division 5'8", mate. And he's scrubbed and he's shaved and he's sober and he's wearing his best no bars to try to stop me frown. His footsteps echo heartbeat. Echoes pound for fucking pound down the one-way streets. The runway meets sky. The whole thing lifts off high on Saturday. And the centre of earth and of heaven and hell tonight is a table at the Red Cow Hotel where the dangers of youth collide. Where they sit side by fucking side. You got your Hendo and Murphy and Simo the Surfy and 7 cold schooners and Winfield Reds and orange notes and acne cheeks and fucking mate, I haven't seen you for weeks. He goes, how's the Toyota? He goes, how's Charlene? And you hear Simo got suspended from the under-18s and these amber dreams waft in whirls of Menage aftershave. And make-believe girls who gave good head and Winfield Reds blue smoke and a Bundy and Coke and a joke about a nun in a bicycle seat. And I press the J, I look for the 11 and Led Zeppelin arrives with Stairway to Heaven. And they go, that's my favourite fucking song. They go, that's my favourite fucking song, in a sweat-stained flannelette shirt sing-along. Or a trough-tiled headrest with your eyes closed and your spit sticks to your bottom lip and slips slowly down your chin toward the butt-clogged, purple, perfume-pebbled, water-falling tin. And they go, down, down, down. Let's fucking get it in you. I don't want to spin you out, but it's your fucking shout. You got money in your pocket, buddy? Fucking take it out. So 5 hours of his life are blown in a single shout. There's like 5 hours of selling hot dogs at the Penrith fucking races is blown on 7 schooners with 7 Subbo chasers. That you're drinking with your mates. And here's fucking to you. And I love you like a brother, and another bloody schooner, and they're young Australian boys, and we couldn't give a fuck. And if I could, I'd rip this fucking liver from my gut, and I'd throw it on the smoke-stained spit-rain floor, and I'd piss on it, and pick it up, and put it in your hand, and I'd fucking give it to you, man. Because that's how much I love you. Guys, that's how much I hate my life. That's how fucking scared I get. Take a fucking knife and cut a fucking hole through the fucking smoke and fucking let me out. But it's your fucking shout. You got money in your pocket, buddy? Fucking take it out, because man is not a camel and the Panthers won today. And Simo just got laid and Toby got his peas and life's a fucking party, man. And 7 schooners, please. 7 schooners, please. And there's a lady who knows all that glitters is gold and she's buying the Stairway to Heaven. When she gets there, she knows it'll probably be closed because the fucking pub shuts at 11. So it's off to the Leagues Club. With a 3 a.m. licence, you stop on the way for a curry pie, sends you right off the deep end, does it to me every time. Simo's still insisting on a flagon of wine. Man, he's so pissed he can't even speak. And he threw up on that same letterbox fucking last week. You better stop Hendo from hassling the bouncer about an ounce of hash that went missing from his pocket, man. His wallet was stolen. Christ, his mother's got cancer. The baby was dancing with drunk bourbon and Baileys all night and then bolted before he even got a telephone number, let alone a pash or a grope or a hope in hell of a story to come back and tell the boys. Till the night creeps up behind him and it slaps him fucking sober. And it leaves him lying on the floor behind a closed cubicle door with wet patched knees and with his mum's Saturday night casserole peas, with the trembling DTs of a 17-year-old. Yeah, I've been there. Cold as buggery, yeah. I threw up, I feel better now. He goes, that babe was the best, and crawls up against the breast of a lady who knows all that glitters is a cold fucking beer on the end of your arm. And Simo's crashed out, makes for a cheap shout. Toby's passed out, makes for a cheap shout. Shit, man, no one can remember a word that's been spoken here in the last hour. Hendo's still hoping his breath don't smell sour like vomit as he tries to crack on to this girl who was on it. He's going, fuck, man, she was definitely on it. She had these casserole peas and these green ski pants. And yeah, man, we're leaving, just give us a chance and give us a hand here with Steve. And fuck, man, I'm bleeding. When did that happen? Oh, there's a lady who knows these things. Hendo sings as he makes his way out the front door with a fucking slate. I know, mate, I've been here before. And the thing is that nobody's really sure just how he got home that night. On his own that night, like an old fucking boozer. Just like his old fucking dad. Just like an old fucking loser. Without nothing to show for nothing to show. But no. No, because the piss that was sucked held its own unique joys. And he's broke and he's fucked. But he's one of the boys. Thanks very much.
Down, bow, down, boo, down, 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 do, do, down, do, down, 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 do, 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 down, ba, down, do, di. Down, boom, bow, down, do,
If a man's home is his castle, his shed is his kingdom. It's a place men can hang out with a few mates, build a few things, even if you haven't before, and give back to the community. No man should be without a shed. The Australian Men's Shed Association is working to provide a shed for all Australian men, and they have over 400 already. Visit your local shed, build your community, and make a difference. Find a shed near you. It's time to give back.
I was in my 40s when I was first diagnosed with bowel cancer. George, my son, was 6 years old at that time. These days, like people of his age, he's very busy, but he still needs to find the time to get to know his bowel cancer risk. Is that right, George?
Yes, Dad. Bowel cancer affects 1 in 12 Australians, young and old, and is our second biggest cancer killer. But if caught early, bowel cancer is treatable and beatable. My dad is living proof of that. So get to know your bowel cancer risk. Talk to your pharmacist or GP about screening. Protect yourself and the ones you love. Go to lovemyfamily.org.au.
Juggling work and caring for Mum can be overwhelming. Having an understanding employer and access to support helps. I love my mum. I just wish I had some time to myself.
Tick, 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 fashion.
Tick, 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 fun.
Tick, 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 food.
Tick, 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 festivals.
All make up 15 fabulous minutes.
In a half-hour special.
Presented to you by Jacqueline and Steve.
Every week. Time's up.
This is part of a tarot card series that I wrote a few years ago. This is actually the end of that series. It's called 21 The World. Our scars are older than cities. Our pulse keeps time with the mountains. We inhale in the tides and we exhale into the whirlwind. In dreaming, the very planet moves beneath our hands. On waking, we find we do not dream. We have no identity, no unifying theme. We rally beneath no flag, but our souls are connected, and no difference can be found between us. Our voices raise in multitudes, but speak in unison. We say we are one, we are in truth nothing. We emerge into being and raise ourselves into the light. Thank you.
I'm going to finish with this one. It's just a really short piece of prose. Thanks again for having me. This is called Canaan. 23rd of December and the city smells like burnt out candles. He feels burnt out. Spent the last half hour pushing coins into a payphone, dialing the same numbers, country code, area code, 1 moment please, till his fingers remembered better than his head, till there was nothing left in his pockets, all his money exchanged for words, left on an answering machine in an empty house, in a nothing much town, where this same time of year, half a lifetime ago, he dragged a woman through the snow by her long dark hair. He drops his last couple of coins into the slot and waits for the machine. Just thought you'd like to know. And his voice passes like a shiver through the still room. Just thought you'd like to know it's warm here. Some crazy shit, huh? Don't even feel like Christmas. They got dust storms and sweat stains and sun scorch and the paint right off of the boards just as soon as you can slap it on. Everything's burning down and I still can't help thinking I should go build a fire. Call the dogs in. Still can't help reaching out for you sometimes. Like I've been hit in the head with a rock or something. It's what you are. A brick in the head. I met a girl. She looked like you, but she wasn't. Wasn't at all like you, and had this scratchy little voice like an army issue blanket. And anyhow didn't like me. Not like you. But I didn't call to tell you that. I just called to tell you it's warm here. That it don't even seem like Christmas. And I thought you might explain to me why it feels the way it does. Like I'm kicking in 60 feet of water with my hands tied. He takes a breath. His mind winds round, a spool of knotted thread. There's snow on the ground, trees scratching the sky. One pearl button mute in the palm of his hand. It's okay, he says. I know now. I understand. And in an empty room in a nothing much town on the other side of a lifetime, his voice passes like a shiver through the frosty coats of the dogs who whine and scrape at a door banked by 13 years of snow. It's the 23rd of December. The city smells like burnt out candles. Kanan hangs up the phone. Thanks for listening.
Hi, coming up next is 15 Fabulous Minutes with Jacqueline and Steve, and they're off to a dance party somewhere around about the 2000 odd era, so enjoy that. And then at 10:30 we're heading to Transports of Distant Delight with a special episode made just for MELfeed. This is the second one of those at coming up at 10:30. And just a reminder that if you're wondering what's happened to the CEC report, unfortunately we can't show that on MELfeed at this point in time due to some copyright problems that have plagued that show, in particular the inserts from the Channel 9 current affairs and news programs, which always gets us flagged on YouTube. So if you want to watch those episodes week by week, you can do that on the CEC report website, cecost.com.au. That's cecost.com.au. If you have a look there, you can see the episodes week by week, or you can see them on the 3 remaining community TV stations in Melbourne, Adelaide and Perth. But anyway, that's all for this week, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week.
It's always been my dream to represent Australia in the Olympics. Epilepsy affects nearly 250,000 Australians. Like me, most people have their seizures controlled with medication. Even today, people with epilepsy face incredible discrimination, but this prejudice is just another obstacle we can overcome. We're just as capable as anyone else, and often we have to be stronger. I promise I'll do my best for Australia. Will you do your best for me?
The interesting and informative interviews, join us for Nat Chat Monday nights at 8. Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
Warm and balmy night down here in Melbourne, winter at the docks, and there's a medley of people passing us tonight, streaming forward
That
for
direction.
one good reason. What would that be, Steve?
That's right. Trade Australia, the largest dance party ever to hit Melbourne, is here with DJs such as Paul Van Dyke.
And a lot of local talent such as Steve Quinn and Peter McNamara.
It's freezing. I think we need to get inside and dance our butt off.
Let's talk to people and see exactly why they're here.
Get in here. What brings you guys here tonight?
Just out to have a good time.
With the girls?
Yep.
You're old enough?
There's one guy. Yes.
How old are you?
19. Look.
No, I just scraped in. There you go. I'm sure you get that everywhere you go, yeah?
I do every time. Okay.
We're pumping behind us here, and you guys have got the right idea. It's a bit of a cold night, and you've got the heater. Well done.
Yeah.
Now you've got some gorgeous outfits on, so how did you put these together?
Just homemade, yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Just a bit of an inspiration, going to a rave, a bit outrageous and all that, so it's got to be done.
So what was your inspiration? Why did you decide to go pink? To go pink?
To go pink? I just like the colour.
Pink's sexy.
Oh yeah, it's a sexy colour tonight. Yeah, it's going off.
Now I'm just wondering though, a lot of the people here aren't exactly the most glamorously dressed. I mean, we're talking streetwear and cargo pants, and yet you guys are standing out in the crowd. What is it with fashion at these dance parties?
I have no idea. This is my first one, so I don't know.
It's the first time I've been here, so yeah.
Oh, us. Oh, us. I'm
Okay. Hello.
How are you, Audrey?
Fine.
And can you tell me tonight, as well as Brendan, what are some of the dance party necessities besides Chomper Chomps?
Apart from Chopper Chops? Good friends, good music, good times. Not the obvious. Sorry.
What's the obvious? The glow sticks, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Tongue studs. Tongue studs?
Tongue studs.
Yeah. That's for kissing?
No, that's for playing with yourself when you don't have anybody else.
Oh, how do you do that, actually? I think we need to get that off camera. So what brings you, is this your first trade?
No.
No. How many other trades have you been to?
I don't remember.
It's all a blur, is it?
Bit like that, yeah, actually.
And what about yourself? First one?
This is my first trade, yeah. I'm fairly new to the scene, I guess you could say.
Well, you've never gone out before?
No, I've definitely been out a lot before, but yeah.
So, Audrey, you're corrupting this boy.
He actually is a good person.
Actually, I did, I think.
Is that a bad thing or a good thing?
It's a very good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Excellent. So, you'll be home some wee hours of the morning then?
No, probably Wednesday.
Wednesday you'll get home. Oh, long weekend. Yeah, why not?
Now, this outfit is actually here for a purpose, is that right?
So that everyone can see us.
Okay, because fluoro is quite popular at dance parties.
You wouldn't believe how many offers we get out for our jackets. And the overalls as well.
Yeah?
Because they're covered in shiny bits.
$60?
And the rest.
Oh, okay then, fine. What sort of casualties do you tend to get at these dance parties then? Apart from people trying to rape you for your outfit because they want to purchase it.
Band-aids.
Band-aids for what exactly?
shoes rubbing against heels, things like that, yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, that's all very tame.
Oh, it is.
I thought maybe you'd have convulsions and people falling over into the docks, you know, potential drownings, anything like that?
Not if we can help it.
No?
No, we prefer a quiet night.
So you started your evening off munching on pizzas. How do you think your evening's going to end?
Probably needing help ourselves after this pizza, I think.
Is that right? Well, let's hope you have a good night and everybody else does too.
Well, hopefully we don't have to do anything. That way we know everyone's having a good night.
If anybody does have any problems out there, what do you suggest they do? Who do they contact? How do they know where to go?
If it's serious, see a security guard and they'll come and get us. If not, we're up the end of the shed.
Yeah.
Yeah, look for the first aid signs.
And is dance music your scene?
I get into a lot of trance music.
Yeah?
Yeah. So, yeah, we've done that many raves. It's just one of those things that grows on us, you know.
Okay. So this is one of the perks of the job then?
Absolutely.
We're just going to take you through.
Making it here at Trade in the back room, and it's kicking out there. And how's the response been from tonight?
The response is fantastic. I think we've done about 8,000 people tonight, and as you can hear, Paul Van Dyke is just going nuts at the moment. So he's got people crying in the in the front rows and all that. So it's really bizarre. It's really happening tonight.
That's obviously the big draw card. And what makes you think, oh, we'll get him in? Where does all these international DJs come from?
Oh, I think because there's such a big vibe on Australia now, because the party's been getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and everyone's going back and saying, you know, how great Australia is and blah blah blah. I think everyone just wants to come here now, which is really good for the whole music scene and industry, I suppose.
How hard is it to get one from overseas?
It's not hard, it's just expensive, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, it is hard. I suppose you have to have like a sort of a good rep, and you know, you have to look after them and suck up really hard to them, so you know.
Do you associate a DJ to a certain theme? Like, for instance, Trade, Paul Van Dyke. You know, Gatecrash is somebody else, or...? Yeah,
I suppose. I mean, Trade was always, you know, Tony DeVee, which we brought out many years ago. And you really do associate certain styles of DJs to certain clubs, you know. Obviously, there's house clubs, techno clubs, hard house clubs, so, you know, just depends on which genre of music, what DJ suits what club, I suppose.
But how different is, say, tonight, with obviously Trade in London's in a small club, very small, very dark, very sweaty, and here you are in a shed.
Yeah, which is very big, very dark, very sweaty. Same thing,
it was
really.
Dripping. I was getting the condensation from the ceiling.
Yeah, drips
in there.
are good. I mean, you know, it's really happening when you're getting dripped on.
So who designs the decor and the theme?
We have a team of designers. I mean, yeah, sometimes like Trade bring out some stuff with them, which they brought out these inflatables this time, but they forgot to bring the power adapters with them, so we couldn't get them up on the day. Bummer.
Right.
But yeah, we'd have a whole team of different people for different parties.
It's first time at a dance party.
Yes, it sure is, and I think I'm in for a very different night.
What did you expect?
I expected something big, but probably not quite this big and well organised. Yeah, well, I just got here, so I'm sure I'm going to see everything there is to see, and lots of surprises and gobsmacking stuff.
Now you've got your Trade pass here. Thanks, I'm keeping that. See you later, I'm off.
Jeff?
Yeah, I'm alright, not bad.
Fantastic.
Ready to rock.
Now you've got an interesting contraption on your head there.
Yeah.
What's this hat you got there?
It's just a hat that I bought at another rave at Every Picture.
Yeah?
The last one.
So it's important to wear hats at raves or just outside when it's cold?
I just like wearing it.
Yeah?
When it's cold, when you're inside, when you're outside, everywhere. That's cool, you know.
Are you telling me that you're going to wear your hat all night?
Huh?
You're going to wear your hat all night?
Depends how hot I get inside.
All right. How hot do you think you're going to get?
I don't know, probably boiling hot.
You reckon you'd be pretty disappointed if you lost your hat?
Yeah, shit, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Have you ever lost your hat and found it on somebody else and had to get it off them later on?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Sure, it's happened to me, yeah.
And just one final question, yellow. Why is that the colour of the day? A cheery colour?
Because I got an outfit. I got an outfit like this. Jacket, the pants, the whole thing. So.
Why aren't you wearing it tonight?
Nah, because I wanted something more snug and rug. Just the hat today, just the hat.
Alrighty, this is your winter outfit then, eh?
Yeah.
Melbourne is a shopping capital of Australia. You get the best bargains, you get the best fashions, and you get the most fashionable people. But this is completely ridiculous. It's 1 o'clock on a Sunday morning and people are out shopping. How are you?
Not too bad.
Great. Now, what are you going back to purchase?
Well, probably nothing, but we're looking.
Are you just browsing?
Well, he's probably going to buy some.
From a yellow hat to a green hat, it's all hats all round, and this is pretty much the protocol for tonight, is it?
Absolutely. The cold air, keeping the head warm, the ears warm. You've got to take care of yourself in these cold winter nights.
Who dictates the fashion on the dance floor?
I think it's just personal choice.
Yeah? So what are you, a raver or a dance party look?
Probably more of a raver, I think.
What's the difference?
I think it's more the fashion, just like you tend to see people with the labels and whatnot, and people just dressing up to be comfortable. And
okay, so what brings a raver to a dance party?
The music.
The music. You here for Paul?
Yeah, absolutely.
What about the local DJs?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Bit disappointed that my favourite Willie Tull's not playing, but anyway, I'll definitely.
Well, is this your first trade?
No, it's not. No.
Okay, how many trades have you been coming to?
It's my second.
This is your second?
Second, yes.
So it was good that first one, huh?
Absolutely.
Well, have a brilliant night out there.
Keep watching, there's more after the commercial break. All right?
Right.
Stay there. Stay there. Hey, don't change the channel. Hey.
Yeah, praise the DJ. I think it's well worth it too, because the DJs are producing the music of the stars today, like Madonna's and all that sort of thing.
Well, how do you feel up there mixing your tunes?
No, I feel quite good, especially when people are enjoying it and going off. I mean, you can't but feel
Ultimate
really
high?
good. Yeah, it is the ultimate high.
Have you ever had an experience where you've just bummed out? The crowd have just gone, what is he doing? You don't want to say.
Not that I can remember. I've probably had a couple of them. I've been DJing all the
you're
time.
a pro, yeah.
I'm a pro. No, I've never had one of those. Never, no.
But do you change your style of music from party to party?
Yeah, I do actually, yeah. And especially when I work at clubs or whatever, and if I go overseas or work interstate, there's always different sorts of crowds, because I'm a
huge record collection.
Yeah, I'm a people player, so I play to what the people sort of are getting into at the time.
Well, how do you know what they want?
It's just a good guess.
How do you read?
Yeah, it's a good guess.
If they're dancing, if they're walking away,
there's something's wrong. Yeah.
And what's your favourite? What sort of style of music is your favourite?
I like a bit of everything. I mean, I've always been a real sort of, I love house. Anything to do with house music. So but in the early '90s, I had clubs like Pure and all that, which were real hardcore sort of techno clubs. So I'm just a bit of a bitzer.
Bad, yourself?
Good, thanks. So you'll be here for what, Paul Van Dyke, or just the whole evening?
Hey, sorry?
You'll be here for just Paul Van Dyke for the whole evening?
Yep. We are.
Just having a great time, that's it, full stop. Woo, what have we got here? Hello, how are you? You've just Nicholas down for tonight. Bloody boiling. Wait a minute. It's not just the boys, the girls getting into it too. Oh, here you're a bit of a raver. I'm just saying hello to the camera. You got your jacket on still. You'll be hot by now though. It's a little bit warm. Pretty warm, eh? You'll be taking your jacket off later? Probably. Yeah?
T-R-A-D. God, I want to eat.
We're in the middle room at the moment, and the middle room is like the chill out area, and there's like 3 rooms. We haven't even discovered the back room yet. You having a good time?
Yeah, it's great. And how many chocolate chumps have you got for tonight?
About 3.
3. What about yourself?
About 6.
6 chocolate chumps. That's a lot of sugar for a girl your age.
Yeah.
How many energy for?
Yeah, that's it.
I'm on chewing gum actually. You're a chewing gum freak. No, that's some of the things you need. Now what do you say? What happened to going to church on Sundays?
We still do.
Yeah, like how you do? I think the DJs replaced the police, don't you think?
So, yeah.
Would you say pretty accurate these days?
Yeah.
So what makes you come here?
I don't know, the atmosphere, everything. Good music.
Do you pick up in a place like this or not?
No, you don't come here to pick up.
Why not?
Because it's here to have fun.
It's different.
Yeah.
I'm joined by Sammy here, and Sammy, you better known as Tinkerbell, are you?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I'm an angel. I've got my angel wings.
Do you want to do a bit of a turn for us?
I'm joined here with Layla and Samira. Now you've gone out all around. I think Zips is a must for any dance party because what's in each pocket?
Okay, I've got my money and my keys in that one. Don't know what I've got my bank card in this one and other stuff. Oh, I don't got my glow sticks. I haven't.
What do you mean stuff? Glow sticks. You haven't broken those yet. When are you going to?
Saving them for Paul Van Dyke.
When are you going to christen Paul Van Dyke? Is that what brings you here tonight?
Yes, definitely.
And how long does it take you to get ready tonight?
An hour?
An hour. And that's just on the face?
Hair and makeup. That's
Hair and makeup. What about the outfit?
Oh, that was 5 seconds.
5 seconds? What happened to effort at dance parties?
Full gear.
So when are you going to leave tonight?
Probably tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock.
Tomorrow morning?
Raver, how are you? Having a great time. Now, have you dressed up for tonight? Sorry? Have you dressed up as if you've got glitter all over you?
That's left over from last night.
What were you doing last night?
I was at Winter Days. I was Wonder Woman.
All right. So you're having a wonderful time tonight, Wonder Woman?
Wonder Woman Part 2. Her powers go on.
All right. Now, does the sequel get better than the original? Sorry? What? Is the sequel better than the original?
Well, I'm damn well hoping so. Paul Van Dyke is going to rock.
You in for a big night? Woo! Take it away, Wonder Woman!
We need a DJ. Anyone seen a DJ? Are you a DJ? No? We've got to look for a DJ. You're a DJ? Are you a DJ?
Yeah.
DJ who?
DJ Matt Crawl.
Artist. You designed the joint, didn't you?
I got a bit creative.
I'm trying to find a DJ.
I've done a bit.
Wow, what a sly dog Matt Crawford actually is. Here we go. Yeah, you've been dubbed in, Matt Crawford. DJ, there we go. God, legend. Yes, I know, but I do better interviews. So, Matt, did you enjoy your sit out there tonight?
Of course I did. Yeah, it was fantastic.
And how did you find the crowd?
Very positive.
Yes?
Yep, I gave them the energy and they gave it straight back to me.
And do you enjoy playing in Melbourne as opposed to any other venue in Australia?
Yeah, well, I don't really have much of a basis for comparison in Australia, but I think Melbourne is the place to be, that's for sure.
Why do you say that?
Because Liz is here.
Ah, the hanger-oner is here. Your moral support, the woman behind the man. You couldn't do it without her, is that right?
I couldn't do it without her, no.
Okay, she's
But
your muse.
Melbourne people love their music.
The A1 Savannah survival kit, because if you're on a dance for like 12 hours, you need some vitamins, you need a bit of orange juice, and you need to be smart about how you party, because if you're going to do those little supplements, and believe me, people do them here, you're going to need stuff. You're going to need to drink water, and you're going to need to eat fruit, and don't suck on too many Chopper Choms. And this is what a house party is all about. Unfortunately, I have to say, religion is gone. Gone are the Sundays going to church, and the new religion is the dance party. The priest is now being replaced by what we call a DJ, and he plays the ultimate tracks, where everybody is going on a higher plane. I think the traditional way of life is on its way out, replaced by a younger generation who just want to get out there and party their pants off. I mean, just have a look at this crowd. You can feel the atmosphere and you can feel the energy. Gone are the songs like Turn On the Sun. Now it's just sheer music and sheer pleasure for the mind and for your feet and for everything. Toilets don't have any preference to sex, do they? Dance parties? You're just doing the glamour touch-up? Can't talk. Oh, you can come out. How was it? Good?
Great, yeah.
Enjoying the party?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, how'd you touch up?
Good.
How many touch-ups do you do in a night?
Maybe 2.
Only 2? Oh, you're naturally beautiful. You're lucky like that, aren't you?
Your inspiration?
It probably took me about a week to pick it up, and well, Black's always the go, and I just bought these, so I thought I'd show it off.
Fantastic! So you're a horny little devil?
Oh, fully, always.
Now, are you going to get hornier as the night continues?
Yeah.
Is that a good thing? She's going to get hornier as the night continues. Is that a good thing?
Always.
Thanks, guys. Cool present.
See you later.
Yeah, Paul Van Dyke rocks.
I rock. Jacqueline rocks.
You rock.
Our
Jacqueline
show
rocks.
15 fabulous minutes rock.
15 fabulous minutes rock, and I rock. And I'm Sammy T, and this is my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thanks. Thank you.
Transports of Distant Delight is a mixed selection of transportation pictures from here and there and almost everywhere, but not quite. Some quirky, some mundane, some from the past, perhaps reflecting a transit system that has vanished into history, and some from thriving transport entities that continue to enjoy despite the constant pressures from the all-pervasive motorcar. Enjoy.
I didn't think this could happen in Toowoomba. And then I saw it on TV that night. It really opened my eyes.
The community comes to us and says we need your help. We do whatever we can to assist.
It is a great feeling to be able to help your neighbours, to be able to help your community.
Each Lions member and each Lions club in different parts of the country, we're totally different.
But we have core values that are the same. They remain the same for any Lions member and any Lions club anywhere in not just Australia but around the world.
Anything that you can think of that you want to do and support and help, Lions are doing it right now somewhere in this world.
I think Lions need to tell their story. They need to let people know the amazing things that they do.
The three major streams that we have in Lions are the community service that we do for the public, health and medical research, and the disaster relief.
We're out there to help people. If you love helping people, get out and help. Join a Lions Club.
We started this project about 20 years ago. All this gear would normally go to the tip. We recycle it and give it to someone less fortunate and where it is needed in the world.
Being a Lion here in Australia means that I can make a difference to my community. But most importantly, it's inspiring other people to get out and be part of their community and make it a safer and a much happier and better place to live.
Childhood cancer, I've always been interested in cancer and small children from the time I first got cancer 30 years ago. Research is an indefinite item. You can't see it, but it helps so much.
I'm here managing the money and the relationships, but other people are out there raising funds and bringing in community support. Without all of us working together, we can't affect change.
2 more extra hands at any function, any working bee, anything we do, 2 more hands can help us raise more funds, can help us serve our community better.
I went to my Lions Club and I said, I got this idea and I think it's a little bit crazy, but I think we could raise some serious money doing it. And it was to run 100 kilometres. And the club said, okay, if you want to do this, whatever you need us to do, we'll be there 100%. And I'm pretty proud to say that together we raised just over $16,000. So we blew the target out of the water, and I think that was due to a lot of the support that I got.
Through my leadership training and all that, I've learned about thinking global and acting local, and Lions Club is definitely that kind of thing. They act within their communities, but the money that they raise can often end up in any corner of the world.
As an individual, I could only do so much, and whilst it was my burning desire to try and help these people, having an organisation such as the Lions family to call upon to support me and those people that were working with me just made it possible for us to achieve so much more.
You know, after the devastation, to come back into the community, you know, you were shattered by what you saw. You know, no police station, no post office, no petrol station, you know, no kindergarten. There was nothing here.
And all that water with an unstoppable.
I don't know that I've ever seen as much as arrived. There were fridges, washing machines, dryers. There was toasters, jugs, just everything.
To be invited to be a part of Lions just opened up a whole new world to me. A world that provided a structured organisation that could see that the hours that I volunteered could achieve so much more.
I think Lions is a wonderful organisation. The people in it have charity in their hearts.
I can go anywhere in this country, see somebody with a Lions badge, walk up to them and say good day. You got a friend.
Never once in my life had I had a group of people where I could go to, say anything, and know that no matter what, they would be there, they would stand by me.
It's the family. That's what we call it. It's the Lions family. Without Lions, I think I'd be lost now because they've been my life.
We work hard, but the most important thing is we have fun.
The fellowship of of all the members of the club, the broader community. It's just a tremendous organisation to belong to. You know, I'll be here till I die.
It is extremely rewarding and gratifying to be a part of an organisation that can spread its support so far and wide.
More members means more hands, means more support to the community.
I would encourage everyone just to give it a go and see if it is for them, because the return that you get for giving to others is amazing.
Get out there, do something wonderful, be part of this fantastic organisation.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
Still in there, they dug it up and putting the new gate in there. You got your keys, I think. The rail is still in there, they dug it up and putting the new gate in there.
You don't have a near corner like you did on the set? Like
we have to do it.
Yeah, eventually, yeah. You don't have a near corner like you did on the set?
We're going to have to do it.
Yeah, eventually, yeah.
They just keep driving through. Look at this. They just keep driving through. Look at this.
Once you get to the signal up, you can view the series. Okay. I don't know what they do. Once you get to the signal up, you can view the series. Okay.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
They say there's a chance I could die in a car crash. Maybe even from heart disease. Maybe even skin cancer.
I could die in a work-related accident, or I could die in a fight.
The fact is, the biggest cause of death for men in my age group is suicide.
Please don't let this happen to me.
You can do something. Lifeline believes that suicide is mostly preventable. Help us save lives. Find out what you can do at lifeline.org.au.
MELfeed Video is about to close operations for tonight, but we'll be back with you next Monday evening. In the meantime, here is a selection of programs that will be seen on our next scheduled web stream. You're welcome to visit our website at MELfeed.video for further details of this project. Until next time, from all of us here at MELfeed Video, we wish you a very good night.